are these people?
I've never done my Assange piece on the show, and while we're talking about it, and we've got a dozen people hanging out with us on YouTube,
Nice.
let's do it.
You're gonna do a Julian piece?
This
Oh, I'm
this
down with
piece,
that.
this is really what first brought me and Misty together and started our friendship was I'd seen her stuff and her talking about Julian. And obviously, I was familiar with his plight, but not enough. And the more I heard, I was like, I need to do a piece for this. And when I was writing it, it hit me that I didn't have to stay on Julian because anything I went to, you can connect back to him because our ability to dissent, our ability to get any kind of news source that isn't just State Department narrative and propaganda. It hinges on free press, and this was this was what came out of this. This is Conviction, Winter in Belmarsh. If you thought you saw your freedom, it was truly a mirage. Freedom's locked a cell away from Julian Assange. Our First Amendment rights are by his side behind bars, and the next voices silenced will be ours. Rest assured, democracy is rotting in the dark. Rest assured, we vilified dissenters, pushed out black renters, and tore down their housing just to build a little urban park. God, I tell you, old America really knows how to leave its mark, how to blaze a trail and leave 100 scars. Rip your free speech out your throat, demonize the man who told you it was so, and leave him freezing in a cell in Belmarsh, perpetually awaiting extradition, thrown to the wolves of claustrophobia and malnutrition. And all that we could hope is that we catch Uncle Joe in a fleeting lucid moment of his flickering senile fascist mission. That maybe we could trick him into thinking Julian is just some sweet blonde middle school Christian, and she got mixed up with a few bad apples, slapped with some charges, and thrown into prison. Joe would set him free without a moment's hesitation under one condition: that he could sniff her hair before she goes back to school and he goes back to business. But if Joe's just had his shots, then we haven't got a chance of getting past his black and white vision. Getting past his gut reaction to appease all of his donors' sick requests and shape policy and law around corporate mandated decisions. So really, all along, I think Julian was one man standing in a tempest with the fearlessness of true conviction. And if his is the only conviction we see after he shed a light on this country's most poisonous schemes all come to fruition, and we all collectively stare at the ground because we felt like our hands were too tied beyond signing petitions, while he's tortured to death for attempting to warn and enlighten admittedly not quite the brightest of citizens. And half of this country just won't take the time to uncover the truth, or they just don't mind, so they're quick to dismiss it and say it's a difficult position. Well, then we're back to the comfort of centrist delusion, right back to sleep for the ignorant sheep who resisted themselves into one protracted contusion, twisting themselves into knots to correct all your stimulus check-based confusion, wrapping their necks round their backs as they justify overflow migrant detention or fracking pollution. Then Kamala laughs, and the camera pans down to her shoes. And that footage is 90% of your 6 o'clock news. Except for a feel-good story about a man who at 95 years young just made Employee of the Month at Whole Foods. And the $50 gift card means this month he'll afford his prescriptions and meals, and he won't have to choose. This is the machine that a man named Julian Assange threw his body on the gears of for you. So to cry out for his freedom is the least that we can do. Now, best believe the feds will serve to muddy up the truth. But rest assured, the temperature in Belmarsh is an icy 22, and Julian is shivering in a solitary room without a view. Rest assured, Obama loves a whistleblower just about as much as he loves weddings where he doesn't get to detonate the groom. Rest assured, Obama bought the plot where all our First Amendment rights are gonna rot and demanded that they carve his smiling likeness on the tomb. so that when you come to pay respect to your free speech rights and a somber feeling hits you and you look up to the sky, the answer will be staring you right in the eye to the questions of why and of who. So if you thought you saw your freedom, then they wanted you to. Human rights are mutable, and Julian is proof. Our First Amendment rights are stuck in solitary too. And the next voice silent might be you.
Who are these people?
This is off of the virus. This is Barack Ofuckingbama.
Don't worry, Joe said nothing fundamentally will change. So you could still wind up living in the street, cause your rent isn't magically paid. You could still wind up shot if you're black on a jog in the middle of the day. You could still wind up losing your job and then watching your healthcare sailing away. And Joe could be sitting in his office 2 years after the fact, and he'll still be telling us Trump is unfit to be leading the way. So now I wonder what Obama's gonna say before he kicks us out into the cold. Man, it's too bad your charm and your smile and your money couldn't buy you a goddamn soul. But thank you for serving us up on an altar to burn in the absence of coal. Cause I bet you when we start eating the rich, we will find that Barack is the sweetest of all. Cause he has the deepest resolve. Cause he was the devious one all along. He came to lead us along. And I know that most of us swallowed the bait. I know I couldn't wait to be singing the song, holding the sign, tears in my eyes. Something would change. We would be heard. We would be fed. We could start cutting our chains. Only to find out Barack had been building the gates and digging the graves and blowing the bubble that burst in our face. Happy to shovel you into your place. Happy to let them foreclose on your place. Happy to smile while bombing civilians. You didn't know them, they're miles away. But now he is targeting you and your kids in the business you started that can't get a loan, and your husband is not getting paid. See, we had a chance at a livable future, and he cut it down right in front of America's face. Trump is an imbecile, Trump is a bigot, Trump is a pawn, and Barack is a fucking disgrace. You pushed out Bernie, you pushed us all into the grave, and the millions of hands of the starving will not see you saved. So spare me when fucking Obama has something to say. Trump is an imbecile, Trump is a bigot, Trump is a pawn, and Barack is a fucking disgrace. So spare me when fucking Obama has something to say. Barack Ofuckingbama, folks.
Who are these people?
So yeah, off of War Crime Jams to Pork 2. This is Redacted. The light of truth has been refracted. Pardon me, I guess you've been distracted. I assumed you didn't see, or else you would have acted. Now all your concerns and dying words will be
redacted.
They snuck the censors in behind the mileage taxes. It's new school tactics, put into action by some old school fascist who they portray iconoclastic. So keep the Black Lives Matter off your Twitter banner if you proudly voted for a man who's been a Jim Crow bigot since the end of the Jurassic. Joe wrote all the classics. Joe designed a crime bill with 80-something reasons you deserve a fate that's just the side of gassing. Wrote the book on lechery and passing. Half his works were plagiaries, the other half inspired by the Klan's grandmasters. Joe's in bed with all those ancient racist bastards. And he has been their golden boy since Thurman walked the earth, and will be feeling all of the effects of his societal disasters for a century beyond the day he finally does the decent thing and fucks fully off to the hereafter. And I hope I've been wrong about religion all along, and the fate awaiting Biden smells of strong sulfuric acid. But knowing Biden, hell may prove to be the more impacted. I bet you this will be the one that gets
Redacted.
See the windows closing as you try to let some light in. You're fighting for
Redacted.
and the enemy is silence. Every man's a garbage patch. No man is an island. And there's never been a bigger piece of shit than Joe.
Redacted.
Who are these people?
This is off my my little 50s doo-wop side project, the Geiger Age. This is called A Stroll Through the Ruins.
Let's take a walk, provided radiation's low and the weather's good. We'll take a stroll through where there used to be a neighborhood. I host a clinic called The Finer Points of Settlerhood. Wish I could say it brings a crowd. Oh, baby doll, doomsday just about as well as you said it would. And God, I tried to love the bomb and I never could. There's such a heavy bomb and the humid air, rotted wood. Wish I could hear the smoke and show you cloud. The meek will get the earth, though the earth will be long dead. The meek will gladly take what we can get. And when we meet the earth, if there's no earth to be found, well, we'll just join the poison in the ground. No, no, the poison in the ground. The poison in the ground. Oh, the poison in the ground. Oh, the poison in the ground. Oh.
Who are these people?
So yeah, this is Apple Model 3 slave collar. Welcome to the future. Shit where you please. The Wi-Fi is great, but there's no more bees, so there's hardly any flowers. There are very few trees, and you'll pay $1,000 for some honey for your tea. But we got these awesome collars. Mine's an Apple Model 3. It allows for better movement than the Tesla X Elite, lets you customize the ads that it implants in every dream, and with a premium subscription doesn't shock you in your sleep. But it doesn't stop there. It can analyze your speech. If it hears disinformation, then it notifies police, and it's a swift re-education, but it knocks you off your feet like your booster every 7th week. I faced the future boldly, with 2 eager open eyes, and I picked a couple nuggets up that blew my fucking mind, like you can taxidermy someone while they're technically alive and they'll shine when it's election time. The Democratic voter base will pay them zero never mind if voting for the scarecrow is a vote along their party lines. They could stare into its marble eyes and claim there's something dignified. Unlike real politicians, this one doesn't need an oxygen or kid supply. But its function is the same as those who came before. The goals are never misaligned. It spends its working time performing pre-recorded fleecing sessions where it sugarcoats your slow and hungry genocide, while pouring billions into Nazi coffers, all the while selling you the story that we're moment till the MiGs arrive. So ask Zelensky if he'll help replace our leaded pipes. Watch a fleet of Penske's show with stacks of bills in every size. It only took a black sun and a couple hiles. Honorary goose step in Nazi boots a quarter mile, all while Biden sneers his sordid smile. I don't know what was in this morning's vial, but it makes him stare 1,000 yards through all the prompters and the cards like he can smell the nearest child. His eyes are wide and wild, wider than the grave in which another 1,000 families were tossed in as I typed till they rose up to the sky unceremoniously piled. Which flies into the face of all the network ticker tape where the American economy has superhuman vitals. I like to think my trial's gonna play like a recital. I'll denounce the world around me and accuse the most entitled, who weaponize their titles, whose poll is something title, and who'd starve us all to death to best delight their blighted idol. So they might destroy the record, and I'll never get to vinyl. So my word is not immortal, but it's final. And that is Apple Model 3 Slave Caller.
Who are these people?
All right, so here's a song that may or may not be inciting acts. This is called Militia Intent.
I didn't do it, I swear.
Rhetorical acts, I swear.
You can keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your hands. So I play civil if you wouldn't listen to 50,000 died. And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. So I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen.
What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? See, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me. 'Cause I will pick my targets and assassinate them lyrically. See, I will bring them out into the town square, hook them to the pillory and leave them there. And Hillary, I'll see you there. Hillary, I'll see you there.
Oh, you can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. No, I'd play civil if you wouldn't listen to 100,000 dead. And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. So I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen.
See, welcome to the fantasy of rhetoric. Welcome to the last of the free speech while we can get it. And I promise you can get it. All you corporate Democrats, second wave Confederates, GOP illusionists, and neo-Nazi bureaucrats. And Stephen fucking Miller, I will see you in the aftermath. When all the laws are dust and there's just moral justice after that. I would hunt you down through the wasteland if it comes to that. Just so I could rub you in the dirt like a cheap human Brillo pad. See, I can sleep fine when our beds are burning, Stephen, but I'll turn around and run into the blaze to get my pillow back. As long as I can lay my head down, I can live with that. I can deal with a little ash. See, I can feel like a little of the old me burn with the bad and the rest of my past. The old world where we all lived and we can't get back. The old world where you didn't give and you'd still get back. Where you could rake in 12 billion and give none back. Well, those days are behind us. The virus will kill all of that. Your wealth is behind us and kindness is meant for the past. Our leaders would bind us and starve us and call it a fast. A sacrament meant for their God that they garnish in cash. They feed it the poor by the hundreds, that's all that it asks. Its hunger is legion and people in need are all it will have. Our only chance is to starve it and watch as it turns on them. Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your hands. Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your hands.
And that is Militia Intent, folks.
Who are these people?
All right, here we go. Oh, we have fun here.
They'll gladly pay you by the hour for a minute or so, so you can sign off on the towers where they'll piss on your home. And if you feel like you're just powerless to answer them, no, it's 'cause you are. They'll gladly pay you by the hour for a minute or so, so you can sign off on the towers where they'll piss on your home. And if you feel like you're just powerless to answer them, no, it's 'cause you are. It's 'cause you are. They'll gladly stagnate a living wage, snap the chains and bury it. Labor slaves in rusty cages dragged behind a chariot, led by Mr. Racial Jungle, Joseph R. Iscariot, fighting over scraps as they barrage us all with variants and BuzzFeed, clickbait, straight until we're paralyzed, trying to distract us from the concentration camps that Joe had swore he'd close but only chose to amplify, where they got 50-something kids in cages made for 5 to occupy. And no, she hasn't seen the camps, but Harris swears they're paradise. She tells us the facilities are safe, and that right down to the women, they are regularly sterilized. Then she throws her head back and she proceeds to laugh, that sort of heartless cackle you'd expect from someone working steadfastly on behalf of the virus and a Congress full of parasites. And where was I? I was busy cashing every blue check, demonstrating plainly all the narratives expected from the verified. I was busy breeding verbal leeches by the terabyte. Train them to exsanguinate the wealthy while they sleep at night. Bleed the oil barons dry and barren. Say they showed us how to share and now we share alike. Tell them I contracted rabies from a feral mic. Now I'm just another species losing sleep to noise pollution and these glaring lights. Forced to change its habits and adapt to just survive. But now it's safe to say that some of us are thriving in the moment, throwing shit on presidential homes beneath the Paris skies. So if you think you're powerless, I guess you bought the lie. But I can tell they're petrified of our collective might, 'cause I can hear those gentrifiers weeping at the sight of our collective rights. And I only can imagine the intensifying fear of knowing revolution's near. And all that's left to do is simply wallow in the thick anticipation of a rabid bite. And maybe one day you can ask your leaders just what that was like before you grab a slice. So if you think you're powerless, allow me now to change your mind. Honey, if you think you're powerless, allow me now to change your mind. You see, they'll pay you hourly, tax them each apart, and build a shining tower out of loopholes and cards, and tell you that you're powerless to keep you in the dark, 'cause you aren't. Because we aren't. You see, they'll pay you hourly, tax them each apart, and make you build a shining tower out of loopholes and cards, where they'll tell you that you're powerless to keep you in the dark, 'cause you aren't. Because we aren't.
And that's Powerless.
Who are these people?
You know, this was obviously I'd written a couple pieces that talked about Tara and her coming forward, and that's what kind of started us talking on Twitter. And it wasn't until a good bit later that I was writing this piece, and I
I messaged her and I was like, hey, I said, I'm writing a piece about you right now. And then once it's finished, I'd like to just run it by you before I publish it, obviously. And I sent it to her and she was like, don't change a thing, you know? And before I did, it just really struck me like what a unique position I'd found myself in already in the first, that was, you know, year and a half of doing political music and being involved here, that I was able to like reach out to her personally and get her approval on something. I really have in these last 3 years since I put out The Virus, I have made some of the most meaningful friendships and connections that I'll ever have. And I really like you and Tara and Greg and Reef and I mean Charlie. There's just so many more than I can list, but you guys just mean the world to me. And so Tara, this is for you. This is Read Between the Lines.
Legend says that Hercules swept Cerberus right off his feet and effortlessly set him down as softly as a songbird. Atlas kept the world upon his back, and every day he wondered whether he could stand it any longer. And Tara Reade came out to say the man they tried to label the Messiah of morality was really just another rapist. And I don't intend to hesitate when asked who was the stronger. Tara, like Assange, knew that carrying the truth would be the hardest labor. Tara knew that her assailant wasn't going to make us any safer. Knew he's just the type of man to hand a decent foreign leader U.S. printed walking papers. And knew he'd be relentless and aggressive in the war he'd wage upon her very character, that his attempts to weaken and degrade and embarrass her would be her only compensation. But I strongly doubt that anyone could ever have foreseen the stream of hate that came from quote-unquote progressives and the self-styled titans of survivor advocation. So if you really think there's something to be gained out of sharing that pain with the world, then you're sorely mistaken. The Biden team just drug their feet addressing Tara's allegations until they had a decent list of smears, and then they aired them out on every station. And it turns out no one wants to hear the truth of who they praised as being worthy of such bloated liberal celebration. No one wants to really know the person they've so valiantly defended, even when it meant they had to gloat and shit all over someone braver than they'd be if given the occasion. Now cue the faceless comment squad invasion. Cue the people crawling out the woodwork to come analyze the way you wore your hair and what you wear, like your appearance waives your rights, or that somehow you're the reason for your situation. Somehow they've decided you should bear responsibility for what such monstrous men insist on doing. Somehow they're deluded by the empty, hypocritical, and useless fucking platitudes that bastard keeps on spewing. And I think it's very telling that the best of your excuses when you try to come and justify our president's abuses is a hearty "but Trump." In which case, I'll remind you that you never saw the news attempt to sell you Donald Trump like he was morally upstanding or a decent human. But when Joe says something bigoted or ogles someone's little kid, CNN says, "Isn't this refreshing? Biden's like a mix of JFK and FDR with all the finer parts of Harry Truman." And Christ, I know they don't think we're the brightest, but at least pretend we've got a couple lumens. Ask yourself if you have ever questioned what they fed you, or do you just shut your eyes and then consume it? Now ask yourself if you ate every one of Biden's lies under the guise of harm reduction and the promise of a slight improvement. And now imagine long ago that Biden chose to show you who he really was by traumatizing you for his amusement. Now imagine that you watched him touch a Bible with those filthy hands and then assume the power of the highest seat in all the land, knowing your attacker wields a global coalition born of 3-letter agencies who will make a life's mission out of trying to discredit you through lies, damned lies, and collusion. Big tech is never gonna separate from our surveillance state. Fuck's sakes, they're just a breath away from total fusion. So there will come a time where even if you see the light, your voice will never reach the sky through all the bots and all the noise pollution. So trust us when we tell you that the masking of abuses is perhaps this country's oldest institution. And I know nothing nobler than facing it in honor of the truth when you know damn well that those in power have been neutralizing truth since there was wet ink on the Constitution. So know that Tara's truth is something crucial to the movement. And if you see yourself a partner to the revolution, help this country see through all the baseless propaganda, through the crux of Joe's illusions, and recognize that Tara Reade gave everything she had so she could tell us what the truth is. Recognize the decent thing to do when someone bares their soul and shows their bruises. It's not to ask for context or to offer up your own solutions. Your job is just to listen with an honest mind and put yourself on Tara's side a moment so you understand the path she chooses. That there is no instant fame worth the dragging of your name. And if that's what you think, then you've a lot to learn about the kind of facts the mob can handle and the kind that it refuses. You've a lot to learn about the news and all its many uses. I guess you've yet to learn the truth the news will serve is fruit from which they've squeezed out all the juices, and we all eat the husks and just pretend it's full of nutrients and isn't really useless. But the jaws of our ability to yield accountability are absolutely toothless. So don't you kid yourself that any lips are being loosened. They won't ever tell us where the bodies are or show us where the proof is. It's on you to recognize the lechery our president so regularly oozes. It's on you to muster up some honesty and ask yourself how Biden won your trust, but it's America that loses. Open up your eyes and learn to recognize the bruises. Open up your eyes and learn to recognize the bruises. Let's read between the lines.
Oh, you son of a bitch. Know that Tara's...
Don't you start, because I'm going to start.
You killed me. So know that Tara's truth is
start.
something crucial to the movement, and that was it. I'm gone. That's it. You killed me. You killed me. You son of a bitch.
Who are these people?
Let's get it. Love Your Prison, folks. From the album War Crime Jams to Pork 2. Oh, God.
It looks to me as though you learned to love your prison. I guess you'd say you made it your own. Who knew that freedom's such a difficult decision? I bet you finally feel like you're home. Home. Right in the center where the halves meet. You were proud of incremental half speeds. You were getting down in the AOC dance line, hands tied, nodding to the backbeat. You would Secret Service dive in front of any representative alive, being asked for the very bare minimum. Then you'll turn into that same kind of hard right villain you've detested should we mention they could ever muster maximum. Because your liberal denial's such a lofty ataraxia, where all the morals take a backseat, not up in the cab, but in hidden panels made by federal human traffickers. If you trust the autopilot, then you're just a sleeping passenger, and you're passively accepting that it isn't us the bastards serve. You're making peace with all the evil walking on this rancid earth, seeking unity with those who bound your hands at birth, then glancing up at fascists on a bloody day is thinking they just need a push. God, I'm not a holy man, but I am praying for a burning bush. Yeah, I know you'd love to look away, but love, you need to look. See, there are many massacres this country manufactured that will never make the books. Now here's your fucking hook. It looks to me as though you learned to love your prison. I guess you'd say you made it your own. Who know that freedom's such a difficult decision? I bet you finally feel like you're home. Home on the range of excuses, justify some fracking, water down pollution, paint a fresh coat of bipartisan charm over backroom collusion. Your consent is being manufactured by illusions, marketing executives in federal seclusion, working day and night to keep you just the side of lucid, and to beat down for calling out abuses. So fuck all these progressives who could speak on revolution once they've emptied all your powder out and spit on all your fuses. I prefer to judge a leader not by quality of tweets, but the six-figure book deals she chooses. All the donors he betrays, and donors he would gladly take a bullet before he refuses. All the slogans he reuses, buzzwords he produces that he spews like mucus. Well, two can play at that. So here's the inner dialogue of every time I snap, and it's been fine-tuned to ruthless, saying politics are useless. It's just a bunch of loose lips tweeting cute shit, power suits, taxpayer booze trips, and a bunker at the ready when the shoe flips. And there will be no news clips. There will just be looks to me as though you learned to love your prison. I guess you'd say you made it your own. Who knew that freedom's such a difficult decision? I bet you finally feel like you're home. Home. Let's love your prison.
That's Love Your Prison.
Who are these people?
$50. Here we go. I found a $50 in a dresser drawer, and I spent the time I would have spent just staring at the floor, staring down at JFK, trying to imagine the immoral sort of irony that makes a nation feign commemoration of a man that it had murdered by the CIA. Trying to envision us if we possessed the health care he had talked about in '58. I guess the takeaway is it's a piece of fucking cake to celebrate somebody's bravery once you've assured they're safely in the grave. And I bet if Pat Tillman were alive today that he would say the same. I'm sure we're in for more if we let Julian decay. I bet that they would put him on a quarter. I bet that they would name conference rooms in his honor at the IMF, the New York Times, the FBI, and Citibank. I guess the takeaway is it's a no-risk softball pitch to uplift somebody's image once their image is the one thing that remains. And the worst is when it's coming from a figurehead who's funding every agency that authored the remains and working with the agency that doctored the remains, the agency that obfuscates the facts and spins a constant storm of shifting blame. I guess the takeaway is that America will sing your praises loud as day to celebrate the fact you and the threat you pose have passed away. Shit, they'll throw you a parade, and business just as usual will live another day. And all of the insurance gods will bathe in all the praise and make donations rain. And all their winged, wicked little lobbyists will blow their horns and light the flames. Their ceremony starts, and they in single column march up to the weathered onyx arch and sand the marker down that bears your name. So you no longer are and never were until your hideous rebirth within the corporate frame. Until you're back from the dead and then bound for all eternity in propaganda's chains. It's the very ritual that whittled down the legacy of Martin Luther King into a parable on unity for liberals to claim. And then once they learned it worked, the world would never be the same. And now it's getting worse. I guess they're dialing in their aim. History's a straight line, but so's a moving train, which is heavily dependent on our infrastructure grade.
We are building back better in a nation built on slaves, so you can guess the ultimate direction that our pathway to the future paves. They don't want you living, or they'd offer you a living wage. They don't want you feeding any homeless. It's just best to leave them freezing in the alleyway. They don't want you speaking words of hope unto the hopeless, or they'll do you up like JFK. I found $50 in my dresser, and I spent the rest of my whole day depressed because this constant drop in pressure means that you can catch the bends from simply sitting up in bed awake. It looks like 2022 is really not the year for you to have your lives improved. I guess you'll have to wait. But not to fret, election season's just around the bend. Why don't you go ahead and save the date, so you can throw yourself before the magistrate and beg to have your family saved? You don't know the people you elect to lead you more than what their ad portrays. You can't tell their offerings of saccharin and arsenic from ordinary aspartame. And you can't really comprehend the kind of greed this country feeds upon until you're Jackie-O, wearing close to half a brain. And probably the half that would have seen us passing M4A. All to keep the pieces in their places in this never-ending profit game. All to weave a tapestry of ampersands. Each allows a claim adjuster room to just dismiss you with a callous hand like fuck you and your meds. Fuck you for requesting a procedure that you need so you can stand. Fuck you and your family and your poor demands. So welcome to the land where we'll assassinate a man and then put him on a $50 stadium or stamp and proclaim ourselves the greatest country ever master planned, killing off its citizens, enriching all its brands. That's $50.
Who are these people?
This is American tradition.
Although he's not the slickest vulture to have ever picked a carcass, he's just the kind to catch us at our darkest for an easy harvest. He's just the kind to serve us to the markets, who will see you lose your home before his donors let him bargain, who will give a cop the go-ahead to shoot you in the leg before they let you harm a target. And being an American, I love watching garbage, but it's overload. And this is not my first rodeo. I don't drop mics, but I choke slam podiums. And so we go. A little bit of Troy, a little Roanoke. Karma, come and hold me close. Tell me how you told me so. I'm overboard. I'm blowing out. I'm Holy Ghost in stolen shroud, soaked in old petroleum and calling down the rolling clouds. I slowly moved my mouth and formed the only sound I knew, and it was always out of tune, but it's the ugly fucking truth, and now it's flowing out. Break the banks, flood the basin. I transcribed a translation, spoke it out of Morse code, and straight into capsaicin. And I hope it suits your station, 'cause it's my last release that won't require proof of vaccination. I got all my rates adjusted for infection and inflation, bloating and decay, and all the perks of radiation. We see the virus for the profits, not the patients. Honey, look at all the records set for all these corporations. When COVID started spreading, they were just the side of celebration. They got one record quarter in the bag, and now they're all impatient. They'd rather have a toe to tag than see a mouth to feed, or worse, a kid in need of education. And honey, only money's making that distinction. They're gonna thin the herd straight through starvation to the brink of our extinction. Capitalism favors innovation, and it is never at a loss for ways to make us hate our liberation and cloud our vision. Somewhere in America, a man with no money in the bank is on his way to City Hall to go complain about proposals for a soup kitchen. And he'll never see the tiny bit of irony that floats in all the tragedy of his position. And he's not the only one. It's an American tradition. And so it goes, in endless perpetuity. We've never deviated from the mission. I sat out the ritual. I listened from the sand, held my head between my hands, and muttered, dying would be easy. Life's an everyday decision. And I am not the only one. It's an American tradition. I bet you thought that Trump would go to jail and Joe would listen. Well, you're not the only one. It's an American tradition.
Who are these people?
Okay, here's Superstarver.
Guys, we still have the co-op coming up.
Sorry, I'm so gloomy, but the gloom is half the mood. Welcome to the country where they throw out half the food. Like, fuck you if you're hungry, we got better things to do. Got a million more priorities than human rights for you. Just empty stomachs wandering an empty store, with shelves as empty as our craters left on distant shores. They marked the spot where once a country thrived that even tried to help its poor. Now in its place, a fascist state where rape is just a tool of war. No, I guess they took a page from out the book we used in '64. The villagers we stacked in graves, caked in fucking Agent Orange. Now cut to yesterday, Afghanistan endures the very storm that swept its way through Vietnam, where even now the blood is warm. Even now Fallujah celebrates to see a baby born who's not deformed, not warped by little presents we left hidden in the dirt, courtesy of all your friends at the World Economic Forum. Courtesy of civilized political decorum, unity across the aisle, both sides agreeing via war crime quorum. You know, I'd like to say that when they start the midterm texts, I'll be able to ignore them, but I know myself well enough to know I'm gonna draw them all rhetorically, then verbally I'll quarter them. Lyrically, I'll carpet bomb and mortar them. Purely via metaphor, I'll bury them alive, but upside down, with the utmost blasphemy intended out of spite. Lyrically, I'll lead them by the eyes, cause lyrically I'm still beneath the ice, scratching at the surface for a purpose they deny. And every time they smile and they look me in the eyes, and suddenly we're 6 feet under subprime, 6 feet standing firmly in between you and the sunrise. And now your movement's as restricted as the sunrise. Now it's crippled into parody like Occupy. Young hearts be free, young Turks here to slowly poison hearts and minds. Here to get them speaking press release in record time. Here to get them standing up for AOC and every other Langley plant who sprays the code of tax the rich across their Semper Fi. And all the skies are nice and clear, the drones are set to fly. They are following the pipeline of how the West was won to how the West declined, to how the West made debt into a genocide, to how the West demolishes a picket line, to how the West contaminates a riverside, to how the West's war crimes are glamorized, to how the West protects the kind of medical neglect that is infanticide at best and is at worst an ethnic cleansing rite. No, it's safe to say it's all fun and games until the feds arrive. Oh, shit.
Who are these people?
This is Echosphere.
Ooh, false alarm.
False alarm, I thought that help was here, but it was my own reassurance bouncing around 100,000 times in my own echosphere. If every time you speak you keep it off the record, consequently you can keep your record clear. And if you mute the speech that shakes your frail belief, you only seek to insulate your image and continue down the stream in the direction clout and credit steer. Directly from your mouth into am I the asshole Reddit's ears, and directly back into the greasy pockets of some Gates Foundation financiers, and then directly back into the frantic final thoughts of early trial Neuralink volunteers, staring at the numb and mumbling vacancies where recently had been their peers, half of whom were glitching with a memory stuck on pause, and half have zero fucking clue just who they are or why they're here. It's been said that fear is all we have to fear, but that was back before the Bezos fear condenser came along. Distilling concentrated fear that's diamond pure, crystal clear, oppressor strong and woven into every single article you read and song they let you hear. And then Elon heard that Jeff enhanced our fear by 86%, and he said, hold my beer. And not a single sheep among the herd would turn their head or say a word, cause they were all too busy begging for the shears, begging for the muzzle, happy just to guzzle, feed, and watch a screen for all their ears. Man, to each his own, can't afford a home, but they'll let you have your cozy little echosphere, where there among your own devices you can break the seventh seal, overthrow the oracles and slay the seer. All the tomes were burned and all the lips were seared. Shut your eyes and all our lives just disappear. Now blink them twice. Welcome to your echosphere. Welcome to your echosphere.
Who are these people?
This is called The Dust of Better Days.
SWAT team took your neighbor today. Watch them as they walked him away. You told yourself extremists come in all different shapes. Met his eyes and lowered your gaze. But is it too late for us to ever change? Once we're collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to be safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wait. Sheriff stopped your daughter today. Pepper sprayed her twice in the face. He must have had good reason if he'd treat her that way. At least that's what they taught you to say. But is it too late for us to ever change? Once we're collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to feel safe, not meant to escape. We're not meant to wait. Feds arrived and had you detained. Said you'd made some posts, they weren't changed. Tased you till you felt like you'd forgotten your name, or life before they had you contained, or life before they had you contained. SWAT team took your neighbor today.
Who are these people?
All right, this is called Better the Censored, you know. Radio station just censored the word devil. Clearly, we are on a different level. I guess you wouldn't notice all the rolling boulders crashing past your shoulders when you're taught to shift your focus lower, scream at all the pebbles, cheering on the bombers because you can't abide the rebels. But I bet you'll wring your bloody hands when all the dust has settled, when the last little limb is pulled from Gaza's twisted metal.
then you can say how you were led astray, and never once in all your days would you have knowingly supported all the genocide for which you clapped and prayed, but they baited you with unconfirmed blurbs about babies until you were filled with rage. Yet someone told you babies had been starving, bombed, and caged for nearly 60 years in Gaza, and you looked the other way. So regret, but make it fashion. Go and pluck the final petal off a hyacinth on Instagram for every kid they kettled. Every son that Israel imprisoned when they're little, that they tortured for a decade, then surprised with their acquittal. And when they got released and saw their parents and whatever siblings hadn't met the missiles, they stared right through their middle. Their eyes don't seem to focus, and their words are all but dribble, like they're pondering the darkest riddle. That is, how many false flags does it take to make humanity inhuman and uncivil, distorted by the revel? The crooked slant where Israel contorts into America, Biden bathing Bibi in a bloodbath in the bevel. I opened up my feed and I saw children disassembled. Turned some music on and heard the station censor devil. Imagine thinking Doja Cat's a threat to moral fabric in the single largest terror cell that ever felled a temple, that ever sparked a cleansing, that ever burned a market, that ever raped with bayonets or carpet-bombed apartments, that ever turned your water off and left you in the darkness, left you doing surgery on children while they're conscious. You sing the devil's praises every time you sing our anthem. You sing a hymn to him that watched us birth a million phantoms. You'll proudly wave his flag, and yet you will not name the devil? Well, clearly, we are on a different level. I can give you names, shit, I'll give you several. They say the devil wears a different face for every general, like a composite of the char we brought to fields of emerald, and the wail of every childhood we made ephemeral. So who else has left the stain of blood on everything they touch? Who else can starve civilians and they don't so much as blush? Who else has paid for Gaza being flattened into dust? If there's ever been a devil on this earth, then it is us. That's U.S. What an ugly couple letters. Feeding shit and ignorance to those it chose to tether. From the river to the sea, both are slowly growing redder, for the devil that you know just knows you better. It knows every gut reaction it could ever make you feel. It knows fear is that which wakes you up and gets you on your wheel. It knows just the kind of story that will justify its war, and the scripts are wrapped for World War IV. So just imagine my surprise to give the radio a listen and to hear such pious morals out of Zionists and Christians that they'd take the devil's name and try to clip it from existence while they carry out his bloody business. You would wave a fascist flag, and yet you honor not your Iblis? Name you not Apollyon? Hush you now your witness? Bleed the name of Belial till tongue is rolling listless in the man-made mouth of Mammon as Lemia's whisper listens. When carts are wheeling bodies through the cities that we crushed, and the very air is rotten with decay of all that was, who else would censor devil yet behave as Legion does? If there's ever been a devil on this earth, then it is us. U.S., but not a unity of souls. More a mass of corporations turning houses into holes, turning people into puppets, turning puppets into mold, turning mold into nutrition bars worth their weight in gold because they're bombing every bakery and burning every field with phosphorus that never once has wanted for a meal. The devil wears a mask and it delights in the reveal, in that moment where the face is let to peel. We do not love the underdog. We do not cheer the rebels. We lust for all their blood until the dust has finally settled, then pity just ourselves that we were so misled to revel. Proudly wave his flag, and yet we will not name the devil.
Who are these people?
Oh, no, you want Redpilled? You know what? We haven't done that in a long time.
We haven't done Redpilled in a long time, and I honestly, I want to do a new theme
That
song,
sounds
and
fantastic.
and
Let's do it.
man, and that's another one because literally I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? But more importantly, watching TV and watching corporate shit with my family all week and losing my fucking mind as they're watching the news. And we watched an entire half-an-hour news show where they didn't talk once about a massive protests around the country, but spent 5 minutes talking about a vigil that was held at the local synagogue for one of the kidnapped girls. And it's terrible. We want everyone home. Man. Oh, dude. Like, how many times did I, like, just loop this in my fucking head all week. Ah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. This is Redpilled.
I think I liked it better being blind when I couldn't read between the lines. I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. My favorite songs don't hit the same way, 'cause I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So I try to sit down with my wife and watch TV, but I just see propaganda elevating the police in the simplest of sitcom banter. The tiny little altars full of offerings to corporate masters. Every well-planned wide pan shot of the name brand stocking up the pantry. Pull back one long tracking shot out to the garage to the logo on the Camry. Nice tight shot of the Camry. Close-up view of the Camry, slow pan up on the Camry, long slow zoom to the unmoving human who's up in the front with a tube pumping fumes to him straight from the back of the Camry. Ashamed he just could not provide for himself, let alone for his family. It's a blue pill mindset that spent 2020 making dance beats. I think I liked it better being blind when I couldn't read between the lines. Couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. And I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. Ignorance is bliss, which explains why a lot of us are so fucking happy. Quick to take the trip for all its trappings. Never one to ask what's up, what's going on, or God forbid what's happening. A lot of us would strap into the ride and spit right in the eye of the guy whose job it is to snap your fastening. See, maybe we're all born with that capacity. Maybe each of us comes standard with humor, compassion, malice, and audacity. Some of us are blind to the system, but some see it fine and say this is how it has to be. Some of us can stare wide-eyed at a nationwide human catastrophe and only offer platitudes and recipes. And God, I wish that I could tell myself nothing's worth obsessing past my everyday necessities. I wish that I could cry fake news over anything that threatened me, tune out our abuses and consume a little levity. Wish that I could offer up my son a smoother destiny. I wish I had some better lessons for how best to answer questions for the things I've been perpetually questioning. But I'm too busy looking at our leaders, wondering what I might be missing from their messaging. I'm trying to find the reasoning to let 250,000 people meet an early reckoning. And even though I know the truth, it's hard to swallow something that's so literally sickening. Hope is ever dwindling, COVID ever beckoning. Winter slows your breathing, but your pulse is ever quickening. Even though I know the truth, it's hard to keep listening. I'm done with my epiphany, my innocence is blistering. I'd like to think I'd taste the earth before I'd ever kiss the ring. Hard to speak the truth and harder still to keep listening. Sometimes I think I miss being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines. Couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. And that's Redpilled.
Who are these people?
Cool.
She said it was fine back the other way. I wish I could have stayed behind, but maybe it was time for our luck to change. I might have to stay a while. She said, travel is difficult, you can't go home. Trust me, you don't really wanna go. Meantime, I had the feeling I'd have sold my soul just for one more minute there alone. To think I'd walk out the door and see the grass still grows, walk into the stream and feel the flow. And somehow I had the feeling I just can't go home. La 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 la. She said it was fine back the other way. I wish I could have stayed behind, but maybe it was time for our luck to change, and I might have to wait a while. She said, travel is difficult, you can't go home. And trust me, you don't really want to go. But somehow I had the feeling I'd have sold my soul just for one more minute there alone. To think I'd walk out the door and see the grass still grows, walk into the stream and feel the flow. Meantime, I had the feeling I just can't go home. I had the feeling I just can't go home. I had the feeling I just can't go home.
And that was back the other way. I was waiting for you, and I wasn't getting it. I'm just like, he's taking a swing, and I'm like, is he gonna? Because you didn't say in the beginning, and I'm like, which one is? Oh, okay, it's back the other way, right?
Who are these people?
Lights raise on a table of senators inking a sale of arms, slipping in footnotes, funding incentives to put those crops in the garbage and pay the farms. And in bursts a mother with babe in arms, who can't pay rent or a grocery bill with her faith or charm, and they tell her, save your charms, save the sob story for those who can help you. Our hands are tied to the puppet strings, lifting our arms. This is the crop that we reap when we vote on the promise of peaceful sleep and a reduction of harm. These are the promises gone into hiding when Biden decides to walk back a reduction of arms. We are the people left shouting on mute because we dared to sound the alarm. We tried decrying a crisis of homelessness, hundreds of people who used to be homeowners buying the farm. Biden was too busy patting us all on the back over shots in arms. We are the cattle they'll put out to pasture or lock in the barn, burn to collect the insurance, and then they'll just carry on. We can be sheep or be carrion. We can be meek or be clarion, haunting the ground we were buried on as we make the sound of the great beyond, echoing back to the chamber where all of those tireless senators stayed till dawn, drafting provisions, improving the living conditions of only constituents riding their crisis out down in their summer house, sipping on Avion. I follow a man named Jatavion. He got pulled over and he made it home, but he knew it was almost the day that we don't want to come, but we all know will come and we're all sort of waiting on. The day that they snuff out your flame and explain they mistakenly thought that the safety was on. Half asleep and half mass hysteria. And back at the table, the senators labeled the final draft Project Valerian, with the subtle approach of a botched cesarean, dressed in the suits that their hideous final forms were born in and will likely be buried in. Close your eyes, eat your news, chew your Valerian. 2024, you'll be voting for either the Kamala bot or an outright Aryan, and they'll warn you democracy's up in the air again. But how many men will we see by then with an officer knelt on their neck while they're gasping for air again? And the pig on their back is a dog of the state whose purpose is just to attack, and he knows that fact, and it makes him invincibly arrogant. Rabid as all of the fascists you train in your barracks and garrisons, timeless indeed, like the Christian need to dehumanize those that they view as beneath them, same old song that we sang to the Saracen. And you were today years old when you learned that for all this time, we were the actual terrorists. We were the source of those flawlessly crafted disparaging narratives. We have sent presidents here and abroad into absolute power or off to meet God to arrange all these corporate marriages. I was mistaken to call it tradition. This is American heritage. This is the land where they lighten your language, pick apart all your paragraphs, gut every lyrical leverage. Smaller than all of those flecks of valerian they set adrift in your beverage. Each word I write that tries shedding some light on the pig they portray as a presidential paragon. Every word I write regarding Biden, he whose sable arms, blacker than the purpose of the warships in the naval yard, orchestrate our fate to try to sate the thirst of Raytheon, blacker than the water that we used to flood Iraq and trickled into Libya so Hillary could open up a nice global slave bazaar that we'll return to sack and pat ourselves all on the back because we liberated Libya. The slaves are gone. But what we didn't know until today was that all of the slaves that we said that we saved are really on a plane and we're halfway to Gitmo. We interrupt this story due to Kamala arriving in her limo with her Timbs on, and that's all your need to know info. This is a historic day, and you can say you saw it with the last of all your energy because you were busy starving, staring at the roast that the senators were carving to celebrate a bill that faced no opposition in Congress. To cut back your heat and your lights at a time when the nights are their longest. And if you don't know the tune that they're singing by name after the grave, the Saracen can tell you what the song is. They'll tell you that it's loudest where the smell of the valerian is strongest. Where they turn around and make an arms deal after promising an armistice. Where the workers get the wall and the scabs solve stoppages. Take it up with Congress and their fortified offices blocked by riot cops who'd love to stand on your esophagus because that's what they've been training for and told equates to competence. You brought it on yourselves by refusing your valerian. You brought it on yourselves when you hesitated giving us your child for experiments. You brought it on yourself by denying your family exposure to all our new variants. You brought it on yourselves. It's American heritage. You brought it on yourselves. That's American heritage.
Who are these people?
This piece is really what started me and Misty's friendship. I mean, she was arguably the most vocal Assange supporter back when I first got on Twitter, and still. And she, I was watching her streams and started paying attention to the case more, and it was one of those things where you think you kind of understand it, and then the more you learn about it, you realize how misled we are about such an important issue, and the implications, the massive implications of his treatment and what it means for so many things. And writing this piece too, I realized that even if I wasn't talking directly about Julian, no matter where I went, it was one step to get back to Julian Assange, to tie it all in. It's like Kevin Bacon, only there is just like no more than one step away before you can get back to how this affects everything. If there's anything that you want to protest about or make people aware of or learn about, your ability to do that is quickly disappearing. And I've got some pieces that I feel like get, a little more poignant as time goes on. And boy, if the last line of this doesn't just exponentially for me, it makes me really happy to see more people than ever putting pressure in some really big ways lately. And I just hope to fuck it's enough and not too late. Yeah.
In that vein, Caroline Kennedy was meeting with somebody from the Australian Parliament. Mm-hmm. She is our ambassador to Australia, and this is the first indication of any conversation and acknowledgement of the United States, even of what's going on. So
for sure,
Biden's due there in a couple of weeks.
Hmm? Yep, it's something.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, it's conviction. Winter in Belmarsh.
If you thought you saw your freedom, it was truly a mirage. Freedom's locked a cell away from Julian Assange. Our First Amendment rights are by his side, behind bars. And the next voices silenced will be ours. Rest assured, democracy is rotting in the dark. Rest assured, we vilified dissenters, pushed out black renters, and tore down their housing just to build a little urban park. God, I tell you, old America really knows how to leave its mark, how to blaze a trail and leave 100 scars. Rip your free speech out your throat, demonize the man who told you it was so, and leave him freezing in a cell in Belmarsh, perpetually awaiting extradition, thrown to the wolves of claustrophobia and malnutrition. And all that we can hope is that we catch Uncle Joe in a fleeting, lucid moment of his flickering, senile fascist mission. That maybe we could trick him into thinking Julian is just a sweet, blonde, middle school Christian, and she got mixed up with a few bad apples, slapped with some charges, and thrown into prison. Joe would set him free without a moment's hesitation under one condition: that he could sniff her hair before she goes back to school and he goes back to business. But if Joe's just had his shots, then we haven't got a chance of getting past his black and white vision, getting past his gut reaction to appease all of his donors' sick requests and shape policy and law around corporate mandated decisions. So really, all along, I think Julian was one man standing in a tempest with the fearlessness of true conviction. And if his is the only conviction we see after he shed a light on this country's most poisonous schemes all come to fruition, and we all collectively stare at the ground because we felt like our hands were too tied beyond signing petitions, while he's tortured to death for attempting to warn and enlighten admittedly not quite the brightest of citizens, and half of this country just won't take the time to uncover the truth, or they just don't mind, so they're quick to dismiss it and say it's a difficult position. Well, then we're back to the comfort of centrist delusion, right back to sleep for the ignorant sheep who resisted themselves into one protracted contusion, twisting themselves into knots to correct all your stimulus check-based confusion, wrapping their necks round their backs as they justify overflow migrant detention or fracking pollution. Then Kamala laughs and the camera pans down to her shoes. And that footage is 90% of your 6 o'clock news, except for a feel-good story about a man who at 95 years young just made Employee of the Month at Whole Foods.
And the $50 gift card means this month he'll afford his prescriptions and meals, and he won't have to choose. This is the machine that a man named Julian Assange threw his body on the gears of for you. So to cry out for his freedom is the least that we can do. Now best believe the feds will serve to muddy up the truth, but rest assured the temperature in Belmarsh is an icy 22, and that Julian is shivering in a solitary room without a view. Rest assured Obama loves a whistleblower just about as much as he loves weddings where he doesn't get to detonate the groom. Rest assured Obama bought the plot where all our First Amendment rights are gonna rot and demanded that they carve his smiling likeness on the tomb. So when you come to pay respect to your free speech rights and a somber feeling hits you and you look up to the sky, the answer will be staring you right in the eye to the questions of why and of who. So if you thought you saw your freedom, then they wanted you to. Human rights are mutable, and Julian is proof. Our First Amendment rights are stuck in solitary too. And the next voice silent might be you. That's conviction.
Yes, it is. Although they haven't convicted. And I hope that they don't extradite and they don't have a trial and we don't see that conviction. And no more winters in Belmarsh.